Revealed, the incredible power of solitude. 7 Transformative lessons from a Stoic man who builds. Jack stood in the quiet of his late father's workshop, the smell of cedar shavings and aged wood swirling around him like ghosts of the past. Each tool hung neatly on the walls, and the daylight shone through the dusty windows, illuminating the forgotten dreams that lay scattered under layers of dust. Once a promising architect, the weight of his father's legacy loomed heavy, suffocating his once vibrant ambitions. Solitude had become a familiar companion, but now it felt more like a prison, a sanctuary turned cell where dreams turned to ash. With each swing of his hammer, he felt his father's stern but loving guidance echoing through his mind, but those lessons served only to deepen his torment. A prestigious promotion had slipped through his fingers, leaving him alone, isolated in a town where failure hung like a smoky haze over his every thought. He could hear the whispers of friends and neighbors as he roamed the faded streets of his small town, their judgment piercing through the protective armor of his solitude. What was once hopeful optimism had dissolved into resentment, his skill going unrecognized amid the economic disparities that plagued the community. Jack paused, his heart heavy with the loss of connection, remembering the joy he felt when crafting homes for others, yet each structure felt tailored to a memory of disappointment, lacking the family support he craved. Solitude had become comfort, but today it clung to him like a suffocating shroud. As he rummaged through the clutter of his father's workshop, something caught his eye. Dusty blueprints, yellowed with age, whispered promises of ambition and change. Jack unfolded them, revealing plans for a groundbreaking community project aimed at uniting the divided hearts of his town, a vision his father had held close, powerful enough to transform lives. A spark ignited within him, a glimmer of purpose shattering the weight of despair. Could this be the resurgence of his buried dreams? As adrenaline coursed through his veins, reality intruded with harsh clarity. A towering real estate developer loomed over the horizon, ambitions of buying out the land casting shadows of dread over his awakening hope. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Will he retreat into the solace of his solitude or confront the storm brewing on the horizon? The thought of stepping into a fight, one that could either bring his father's legacy back to life or obliterate it further, sent jolts of anguish through him. Memories of childhood flooded back, his father's unwavering principles of integrity, the moral fibers of family honor tangled with relentless ambition. The stakes were higher than ever, and as he leaned against the table covered in blueprints, anxiety tightened his grip. The choice felt monumental, success or failure loomed in equal measure, each whispering promises and threats in his ear. With trembling hands, he found himself staring at the phone, the weight of generations pressing down hard on his chest, urging him to take action. Just as he reached for it, the door creaked open, the chilling sound resonating through the void, revealing a specter from his past he never wanted to face again. Jack's heart raced, caught between nostalgia and fear, leaving him suspended in a moment that could shatter him or set him free, staring into the unknown as the tension coiled around him like a tightening noose. Jack's breath hitched as he turned to face the figure silhouetted in the doorway. It was Matt, a childhood friend whose path had diverged from Jack's long ago, a high-flying real estate agent whose success felt like a taunt against Jack's current malaise. The years melted away, replaced by heavy memories of laughter, shared dreams, and a painful realization that those dreams had taken different shapes. "Jack," Matt said, his voice casual, yet weighted with unspoken tension. "I didn't expect to find you here." "Why are you here, Matt?" Jack's words sliced through the air, laced with both uncertainty and a defiant edge. He wasn't interested in pleasantries, the stakes were too high. "I came to talk," Matt replied, stepping closer, the sunlight catching his confident smirk. "I heard about the land. What's left of it could either be a lucrative investment or whatever your father's plans were. I thought we could partner up." Jack's pulse quickened at the mere suggestion. The idea of collaborating with Matt felt like a betrayal to not only his father's dreams but to himself. "You know what this means to me," he countered, frustration bubbling beneath his calm exterior. "This isn't just business for me. It's about my family's legacy. Well, you'd be a fool to pass up the offer, Matt shot back, his voice forging a sharp path through Jack's resolve. You don't have the capital to see this through on your own. The town's economy isn't going to magically improve overnight, and a flashy development will bring in funds. Let's get real here. Caught in the crosshairs of nostalgia and ambition, Jack's mind raced to balance ideals against pragmatism. He felt like a boxer trapped in the corner, every jab from Matt punctuating his insecurities. What if partnering with someone like him could indeed breathe life into his father's vision? What if he lost the very essence of it in the process? Think of what could happen, Matt continued, the glimmer of greed overshadowing the warmth of friendship. You'd have your vision, plus the resources to make it a reality. It doesn't have to be just about profit. The tension crackled in the air as Jack contemplated the very real possibility of revitalizing his father's plans, but at what cost? The urge to shout no surged up within him, yet hesitation crept in, a dangerous form of insecurity weakening his defenses. Every project I undertake is rooted in a purpose beyond profit. That is something you wouldn't understand, Jack asserted, his voice hoarse but steady. He could almost hear his father's gentle prodding, urging him to dig deeper, to trust his instincts. Matt crossed his arms, the mocking grin fading. You think your pride will see you through when other investors come courting? You think solitude is power? That's just fear disguised as wisdom. The words stung, raw and undeniable. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them, filled with the deafening sound of Jack's heartbeat, a battleground of choices swirling in his mind. Matt's presence wasn't just a reminder of lost friendships, it was a challenge, a catalyst forcing Jack to confront his own values. I won't sell out what my father stood for, Jack finally said, but the admission was shaky, like the ground beneath him. Matt shrugged, a flicker of disappointment creeping into his eyes. Suit yourself. Just remember, the world won't wait for you to decide what you truly value. As Matt turned away, the weight of his words clung to Jack like a suffocating blanket. Alone once more, he felt the gravity of his decision looming, potent and terrifying. He hungered for clarity, for conviction, but doubt spiraled into confusion, deepening his solitude. Realization struck him, a realization that perhaps true confrontation wasn't with Matt or the world outside, but rather with his own fears and ambitions. It was time to unravel the threads holding him back from seizing his father's vision and carving his own legacy amid the looming threat of the developer. That night, Jack sat amidst the blueprints, wrestling with the darkness and doubt that threatened to suffocate his spirit. Through the haze of uncertainty, a flicker of determination ignited. His father had taught him to build not only structures but futures that demanded courage and clarity. But with that realization splintered open a new conflict. What if facing the storm was a necessary step toward reshaping both his dreams and his identity? Suddenly, the phone buzzed to life beside him, illuminating a message that sent a chill down his spine. It was an ominous update about the developer's plans, one that would obliterate whatever time he had left. The moment of truth was drawing near, and Jack felt the urge to act pulsating through him, galvanizing him toward an inevitable reckoning. What would he build from the ashes of fear and uncertainty? Jack stared at the blueprint sprawled across his desk, the lines and figures blurring as he grappled with the weight of the future. Every stroke of ink represented not just architectural intention but his father's dreams, now tinged with a sense of urgency. The specter of the developer's plans loomed ever larger, a tangible threat that tugged at his gut, forcing him to reckon with his choices. His heart raced as he replayed Matt's words in his mind, the world won't wait for you to decide what you truly value. It felt like a dare, a challenge he couldn't ignore. But what did he truly value? Was it the preservation of legacy, a paternal bond embedded deep within his own identity, or was it the ambition to forge something new? He took a deep breath, feeling the tightness in his chest. It was time to confront the uncertainty that had ebbed and flowed in his life, shaping his decisions and paralyzing his ambitions. Perhaps solitude wasn't just a retreat from the world, maybe it was a crucible, a space to clarify what truly mattered. How many times had he chosen comfort over challenge? The thought stung him, igniting a new intensity within. Determined, he dug into the blueprints. The land his father had cherished whispered promises of potential housing, green spaces, community centers. Each idea surged with the memories of laughter shared, plans drawn in their youth, and discussions of a brighter future woven between father and son. But these dreams were being hijacked by developers whose goals ran counter to the town's spirit. As he scrutinized the plans, Jack recognized the moment had come to summon his father's lessons. The values instilled in him through years of mentorship crystallized into an urgent call to action. But how could he shape his vision without falling prey to failure? Jack pulled out a notebook, its pages empty yet brimming with possibility. He wrote down everything: the vision he wanted to achieve, the values he refused to compromise, and the myriad fears that had kept him stagnant for too long. The act of writing felt liberating, like casting out the shadows of doubt that had clouded his choices. Halfway through, a realization hit him. He was not merely a vessel for his father's dreams, he had the autonomy to redefine those dreams. Flexibility could coexist with vision. Guided by purpose, he began to draft a proposal, one that blended the roots of his father's legacy with the resilience of modern necessity. As the words flowed, he sensed shift a budding confidence buoyed by the weight of Solitude's revelations. Each decision crafted in silence hammered home the understanding that his growth stemmed from the tension of facing himself, the paradox of being alone yet connected to a legacy that still pulsed within him. Hours passed unnoticed, the room dimmed as daylight surrendered to twilight. In this cocoon of focus, Jack felt distinctly aware of an impending transformation, his evolution from a mere steward of his father's dreams into a bold architect of his own future. But just as he penned the last line of his proposal, the phone buzzed again, breaking the spell. It was another alert about the developer's plans, more aggressive this time. Lines were being drawn, and a deadline was fast approaching. Panic flared within him, wrestling with the resolve he had built throughout the night. The moment had arrived. Could he act decisively? His determination wavered, fear creeping in as he realized the path he envisioned would surely lead him into conflict. Standing at the precipice of a choice, he wondered, was he ready to face the storm that awaited him, not just from the developers, but from the very nature of change he sought to impose on the world around him? With a clenched jaw, Jack's grip on the pen tightened. He was ready to move, but the next step would demand everything he had. The question echoed through his mind: would he summon the courage to cast aside his inhibitions and fight for everything he believed in? Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow would demand clarity, vision, and unyielding resolve. Tomorrow, he would confront the developer directly, ready for whichever confrontation awaited him. But in doing so, would he risk losing himself in the process or discover the power within to truly build from the ashes of fear and doubt? As dawn broke, Jack felt a surge of determination coursing through him. The darkness of uncertainty had given way to clarity, and the weight on his chest began to lift. He stood before the window, the sun's golden rays illuminating the world outside, casting long shadows that danced with hope. Today marked a new chapter, offering both possibility and peril. He reviewed his proposal one last time, ensuring every vision aligned with the values his father had instilled in him. Each line he had crafted resonated with a resonance deeper than mere ambition. It was a manifesto of change rooted in integrity. Yet, beneath his newfound conviction, a pulse of anxiety throbbed. What if the developers dismissed it? What if they didn't see the value in what he was fighting for? With a deep inhale, Jack steadied himself. The developers were not mere antagonists, they represented a mindset that equated profit with progress, a worldview that could bulldoze his father's legacy without a second thought. He had the chance to confront that ideology head-on, armed not just with ideas but with passion. He arrived at the developer's office no later than 9 a.m., palms slightly damp against the smooth paper of his notes. The glass doors ushered him into an environment of polished modernity, a stark contrast to the homely warmth of the sketches he had drawn. He stepped forward, channeling the vitality of every decision he had made in solitude. The receptionist glanced up, assessing him briefly before returning to her screen. Jack cleared his throat, unsure if he would be perceived as a challenger or an intruder in this world of compromise and capitalism. "Hi, I'm here to meet Mr. Thompson," he said, surprising himself with the steadiness of his voice. "I have some concerns regarding the upcoming developments." She raised an eyebrow, pressing a button on her phone without taking her eyes off him. "And your name?" "Jack Thompson." "I'll let him know you're here," she cut in, her tone businesslike, unaffected. Minutes dragged on. Every tick of the clock heightened his awareness of the daunting task ahead. He wasn't just fighting for a piece of land, he was fighting for a vision of community, a legacy that spanned generations. With each nervous glance around the lobby, he reflected on the architectural lessons he had buried in his mind. Resilience, adaptation, and most importantly, confidence in one's vision. When Mr. Thompson finally appeared, he carried an air of authority, his demeanor exuding the assurance of someone accustomed to navigating negotiations. They exchanged pleasantries, but Jack sensed the urgency behind his proposal simmering just below the surface. "Jack, what can I do for you today?" Thompson asked, leaning nonchalantly against his desk, arms crossed. "I want to discuss the development plans for my father's property," Jack began, the initial tremor in his voice dissipating. "I believe we can reach a compromise that respects the community's legacy while still addressing the need for growth." The developer's expression shifted subtly, one eyebrow raised, an involuntary sign of interest. Jack seized the moment, unfurling the blueprint that had consumed his nights. As he detailed his ideas, he felt the power of articulation rising from the depths of his fears. He was no longer an extension of his father, he was shaping his own narrative. But as he laid out the potential for sustainable housing, green spaces, and small business opportunities, Thompson's thoughtful nod soured. "With all due respect, Jack, folks around here are looking for quick returns. These kinds of projects take time, and investors are impatient." Jack's heart sank momentarily, but he pressed on, recalling the essence of true architecture: building not just structures, but dreams. "I understand that, but imagine a project that doesn't just pay off financially but enriches the cultural fabric of this town. Aren't we offering something bigger?" Thompson's smirk hardened, the confidence he exuded into a wall of skepticism. The clock ticked louder, and Jack could feel the negotiation teetering. On the edge. Would he back down in the face of overwhelming odds, losing himself to the very fears he sought to conquer, or could he press forward, fortified by everything he now believed to be true? He stood resolute. This was more than presentation, it was the test of his growth. The question loomed: could he withstand the pushback and rally for the vision he cherished, or would he retreat when faced with the daunting reality of investor pressure? The path forward was shrouded in uncertainty, yet Jack felt something shift within him. Change, he realized, was an equal mix of courage and vulnerability. Suddenly, he understood he was on the verge of something monumental, a crossroads of legacy and personal integrity. But as the tension mounted, and Thompson's gaze sharpened in calculated dismissal, Jack knew that whatever lay ahead would require a persistence he had yet to summon. Would he uncover the depths of his resolve, or would he backtrack into the shadows of his father's unfulfilled dreams? The tension that hung in the air was almost palpable, a thick curtain that stifled Jack's breath as he waited for Mr. Thompson's response. This was more than a business negotiation, it felt like a duel of ideals. Jack saw the wall of skepticism constructed around the developer, brick by brick, with each passing moment. He felt the urgency to breach that wall dissolve into an icy dread. He quickly recalibrated, redirecting his thoughts away from self-doubt and towards the vision he held so dearly. "This isn't just about business, Mr. Thompson. It's about creating a blueprint for future generations. It's about sustainability, real sustainability, creating a community that thrives rather than a transient profit margin." Thompson's expression remained stoic, but Jack noticed a slight twitch in his jaw. Perhaps his words were beginning to crack the facade. He pressed further. "What good is a plan if it only fills pockets now but destroys the community's essence in the long run?" The developer straightened, placing his palms on the desk. "You're passionate, Jack, I won't deny that. But you're dreaming in a world that demands cash flow and quick turnovers. The investors won't wait for your vision to blossom. It's not personal, it's business." The phrase burned through Jack's resolve. His father had taught him the nuanced balance between vision and feasibility, yet here he stood, teetering precariously on the edge of compromise and conviction. He realized that surrendering his dreams would mean not just failing to honor his father's legacy, but also losing a piece of himself. With every ounce of his focus trained on Thompson, Jack's heart raced. "No one is asking you to abandon the principles of business. Let us create a project that attracts investment but roots itself in authenticity. For every dollar spent, there ought to be a reflection of who we are as a community. For the first time, a flicker of genuine intrigue crossed Thompson's features. Jack could feel the energy shift as his arguments began to chip away at the skepticism. A wild thought coursed through him: what if this was not merely a negotiation for land but a burgeoning dialogue for purpose? Each argument Jack presented seemed to strike like a hammer on stone, firm and pulsating with truth. He spoke of renewable materials, accessible community spaces, and eco-friendly designs that maintained the town's character while still modernizing its infrastructure. Each point was crafted with the weight of not just logic, but of heartfelt understanding and passion. As he shared the vision, Jack discovered an empowering clarity. He was no longer just defending an architectural plan, he was defending a way of life, one that aligned with the principles of integrity and respect he had inherited. The words flowed with greater ease now, intertwined with personal anecdotes of his father and the pride that went hand in hand with the legacy of craftsmanship. But Thompson's brow remained furrowed. These ideas are noble, Jack. But we live in a world driven by metrics and returns. Investors need assurances. Jack's pulse quickened in response. Would he play it safe or take a leap of faith? He contemplated his father's teachings again, the stories of patience, of digging deep to reach the surface of what truly mattered. In that moment, he resolved to pivot the conversation. What if we involved the community in the planning stages? Hold design charrettes? Engage the locals about what resources they need? We can build something that truly matters for everyone involved. Thompson regarded him, silence stretching out, a moment steeped in contemplation. Jack sensed the shift. The developer was beginning to weigh his words, the vitality of Jack's vision sparking something long buried beneath layers of profit-driven decisions. The office felt less sterile now, it began to pulse with potential, igniting Jack's resolve again. Deep down, he knew the negotiation was far from over, but the inkling of progress had emerged like a fragile plant determined to grow through concrete. As the exchange progressed, Jack's heart swelled with a burgeoning sense of self-worth. This was his fight, a rebirth of purpose as he refused to yield easily. But what Jack didn't anticipate was the looming shadow of external pressure from vested interests who had their sights set on the land and they were becoming impatient. Just as Jack felt he might be breaking through, an unexpected message illuminated on Thompson's desk, one that seemed to change everything. An alert about opposing developers circling the area, eager to swoop in. Jack's pulse quickened. He was on borrowed time, and the stakes were rising. The moment of confrontation was dawning again, and he sensed the panorama around him would soon shift from negotiation to outright rivalry. The fight for his father's legacy had only just begun, and Jack stood at the precipice of a decision that would define everything. Would he take the risk to escalate the discussion further, or would he step back, weighing the consequences of an impending storm? Jack's mind raced as the message flashed before him, threatening to derail all he had built in this room: the flickering hope, the fragile progress inching toward something beautiful. The competition was not just a metaphorical rival, it was a tangible manifestation of every fear he had long suppressed. What if he failed? What if all the conceptual groundwork he had laid crumbled under the pressure of investors craving quick returns? He clenched his fists, grounding himself in the solidity of the table. In the stillness of that moment, he recalled his father's mantra: true vision comes from the heart, but it takes the mind to forge it into reality. The battle ahead would require more than just passion, it would need calculation, timing, and an unwavering commitment to his convictions. Mr. Thompson, Jack's voice broke through the tension, steadying as he caught the developer's eye. I understand the necessity of showing returns, but I believe we can build a project that satisfies both our needs. We can simultaneously innovate while providing transparency to our investors. Thompson raised an eyebrow, intrigued. You mean to say you think you can sell this altruism to them in a way that's palatable? Exactly, Jack said, bolstered by clarity. Here's what we'll do. We create a staged approach, one that allows us to generate revenue while incorporating local insights into the development process from day one. We focus on a small but vibrant project that generates buzz and enthusiasm, proving that integrity can coexist with profitability. Each sentence propelled him further into uncharted territory but also into deeper waters. Jack was aware that talking about community benefits while ensuring financial viability had become his tightrope act between ideals and reality. But the flicker of interest on Thompson's face urged him to elaborate.
This is a chance to showcase how a thoughtful approach can lead to initial success and lay groundwork for ongoing community benefits.
The pivotal shift in Jack's strategy required a leap of faith, a risky maneuver that could either elevate his project or send it crashing down. He could sense that Thompson was at a crossroads too, a man accustomed to winning by traditional means suddenly presented with a new playbook. As Jack continued to outline his proposal, adrenaline surged through him. The external pressure stirred a newfound responsiveness within. Questions about vulnerability and authenticity collided violently in his mind.
Why had he been so afraid of embracing this approach from the beginning?
Suddenly, a voice broke through his stream of thoughts. It was Thompson, whose eyes held an uncharacteristic glimmer of calculation mixed with admiration.
Fine, let us say I'm interested. What is your plan for getting the investors on board?
This challenge ignited a fire that burned away any remaining hesitations.
We'll craft a narrative that emphasizes both impact and opportunity.
We can present financial models that reflect growth tied directly to community satisfaction.
We can utilize case studies of similar developments that have thrived by prioritizing sustainability. Jack felt the words ceding space for a deeper realization.
He was connecting not just with Thompson but with the purpose he believed in, something far grander than a mere transaction. The fear that had clouded his mind was giving way to determination as he embraced vulnerability, aligning his passions with practical strategy. But as he felt momentum build, a shadow loomed once more. A soft knock at the door interrupted the exchange, and in walked a newcomer, one with an air of authority that sent a ripple of anxiety through the room. Jack's instincts screamed danger, and the twist in his gut confirmed it.
Sorry to interrupt, the newcomer said, clearly above the fray, but have we considered what happens if we don't get ahead of this looming threat? There is talk of a rival firm making moves that could undermine everything we're discussing. Jack's heart sank. The stakes had become even more daunting.
The risk to his vision suddenly felt more
immediate and perilous.
The flood of external challenges was now threatening to douse the flickering flame he had nurtured so carefully.
With his fate dangling by a thread, Jack faced an urgent choice. Would he plunge headlong into conflict with the rival developers, or could he carve out a strategy that kept his vision alive in the face of burgeoning adversity?
The ground beneath him shifted, and Jack was painfully aware that the time had come to not just defend his vision but to launch a counteroffensive that could either spell victory or devastation. Jack's mind raced as he processed the weight of the newcomer's warning. The room, once filled with potential and spark, felt charged with impending doom. It was becoming clear that his trajectory was no longer solely a matter of personal ambition. It had morphed into a defense of everything he had fought for. He took a deep breath, momentarily grounding himself in the intricate kaleidoscope of possibilities now swirling around him. His previous enthusiasm threatened to dissolve. This new pressure beckoned him back to the familiar territory of doubt.
What if he had miscalculated? What if the risks outweighed the potential rewards?
But beneath this rising tide of uncertainty simmered a fierce determination, the same energy that had propelled him into the current meeting. If he was going to pivot the conversation, it would come from a place of strength, not fear.
Let us be honest, he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. We've already established a unique value proposition. It's time to capitalize on it before our rivals manage to obliterate our advantage.
Every word was a calculated strike, designed to refocus the discussion on opportunity rather than anxiety. Thompson nodded slowly, his analytical brain likely churning through Jack's propositions.
You mean to innovate faster than them? Is that feasible?
Not just feasible, but imperative, Jack said, his confidence buoyed by the direct engagement.
This isn't merely about building structures, it's about constructing narratives that resonate with our stakeholders.
If we can pivot our marketing to highlight our commitment to sustainability while showing how our projects directly benefit the community, we can create a defensive wall that is hard to breach. As thoughts spiraled, Jack's mind flickered back to what had initially drawn him to this project: the potential for impactful change. There was a truth he had buried deep beneath layers of financial projections and investor expectations. his true power lay not in the project's profitability alone but in its ability to inspire. With this realization came a crucial shift. His focus needed to adjust from reaction to proactivity, from fear to vision. "Let us assemble a task force," he proposed, feeling the heat of inspiration surge through him. "We can delve into competitor analysis while simultaneously refining our outreach tactics. We'll need boots-on-the-ground ambassadors who can communicate our story effectively and integrate community feedback into the development process." The room buzzed with a mix of intrigue and skepticism, tension softening under the weight of potential action. The newcomer, who had initially radiated concern, was now studying Jack intently, curiosity replacing doubt. Jack felt the moment turn, the tide beginning to shift. "Let us also identify stakeholders who align with our values," Jack continued without pause. "Investors looking for more than just a quick return. They want to be part of something transformative." He could feel his words resonate, a distinctive rhythm building as he outlined a vision that transcended competition. Was he actually gaining ground? In the face of imminent danger, he was slowly foregoing the instinctual retreat of the past. The newcomer, with a disarming calm, leaned forward and queried, "What if you fail? What's your plan for that reality?" The question hung heavily in the air. Jack stared back, feeling the weight of vulnerability in the inquiry yet also recognizing an opportunity for authenticity. He knew there couldn't be a foolproof plan, but failure, he realized, wouldn't simply mean the demise of his project. It would be an avenue for learning and growth. "If we fail," Jack replied, his voice unwavering, "we'll analyze what led us there. We'll refine our approach and come back stronger. Each misstep would be a lesson toward bettering our processes and our impact." The dialogue had transformed. What began as a defensive posture morphed into an exploration of potential. The nature of their competition had evolved into a collective quest for advancement, not merely survival. Just as the group began to coalesce around Jack's vision, a startling realization unfurled in the depths of his consciousness. Perhaps the very confrontation that had terrified him earlier was, in essence, a catalyst for personal growth. He felt the stirrings of a latent strength, prompting him to embrace both the chaos and the clarity of the moment. But then, the flicker of belief was swiftly challenged. A buzzing phone jolted him back into the harsh glare of reality. Distracted, he glanced at the screen, a text illuminated with urgency, snippets of panicked news about the rival firm and its advancing plans. Fear roared back, igniting the potential for self-doubt, darting daggers of concern deep into his resolve. Jack's heart raced, stripped of the earlier courageous bravado, now faced with urgency that threatened to unravel everything. The question loomed in his mind: could he rise to this new occasion and lead effectively against a backdrop of emerging darkness, or would this moment eclipse everything he had fought for? The stakes had been raised, and Jack knew he had to act swiftly. Success or failure awaited just beyond the horizon. How far was he willing to go to defend not just his vision but his very self? The air in the room grew thick with tension as Jack stared down at his phone. It felt as if the walls were closing in, each heartbeat echoing a challenge to his resolve. He could feel the weight of not just the expectations resting on his shoulders, but a deeper, more intimate conflict. Could he truly handle the storm brewing outside, both in the industry and within himself? "All right," he breathed, seizing the urgency. "We need to convene immediately. Let us gather all relevant data on this rival firm, market trends, recent projects, client feedback. We can't be blindsided again." His voice rang clear, sharpened by adrenaline, yet internally he wrestled with a whisper of doubt. Would data alone be enough to shield them from the threat lurking just around the corner? As his colleagues began to shuffle, Jack sensed a shift in dynamics. The newcomer's doubt lingered, yet it transformed into a spark of curiosity, a flicker of hope ignited by Jack's unwavering presence. This moment was no longer just about survival, it was about harnessing a collective power. Every whisper of camaraderie became a bolster to his own towering ambition. Despite the surface calm he mustered, within, an unsettling realization gnawed at him. Leadership wasn't simply about orchestrating demands or pushing for results. It was equally about facing the darkest corners of his psyche. Was he prepared to confront the ghosts of his doubts and insecurities? Hours passed in a blur of analysis and strategizing. Jack found himself pacing the conference room, the clock ticking down ominously as the teen debated tactics. Each idea tossed around the room stoked a fire in him, yet the faint echo of the newcomer's question lingered, charging the air. What if you fail? Each time that thought crossed his mind, it became less a specter of fear and more a catalyst for determination. Jack knew he had to reframe that question in his mind. Failure could not be the end, it could only serve as a stepping stone. What if he allowed failure to show him the way forward? I want us to cultivate a culture of resilience, he announced, pushing back the tide of doubt. We need to empower every member to take ownership. Failure will happen, that's life. But it's how we respond that defines us. If we stumble, we stand, dust ourselves off, and analyze what went wrong. The words were earnest, spurred by a newfound conviction, and they resonated deeply within him. The sincere engagement seemed to boost the morale of the room. Jack could see it, the nods of acceptance, the dawning realization that they were not alone in this struggle. They were in it together. Camaraderie served as an antidote to isolation, a principle he had previously overlooked. With renewed energy, they devised a multifaceted approach. They took the lessons from competitor assessments and infused them with a collaborative spirit. Techniques merged, thoughts aligned, and slowly, Jack felt a transformative shift inside, a rediscovery of his initial passion for the project. It wasn't about mere advancement anymore. It was about crafting a legacy, igniting change that extended beyond personal ambition. Still, the nagging tension stretched taut within him. Jack understood that this transition demanded more than just synthesized ideas, it required deep introspection. He needed to confront the vulnerabilities he had kept at bay, the faint echoes of loneliness that lingered in his mind. Later that evening, alone in his office, Jack stared out the window at the fading sunlight. The shadows of the buildings stretched like fingers reaching toward him, as if beckoning him to step outside his comfort. What wasn't visible beyond the horizon considered the unknown, a palpable darkness teeming with challenges and untapped potential. Confrontation is inevitable, he whispered to himself, feeling the truth reverberate in the silence. But can I rise from it? This newly born question gnawed at his core. The path diverged ahead, and with it, the chance to deepen his understanding not just of his role as a leader but of himself as a person. 1. Thought ignited his curiosity. What unconscious strengths lay dormant within? Would vulnerability reveal hidden competencies, perhaps even unearth innate forms of charisma he hadn't recognized? He sighed, a tangible mixture of weariness and excitement swirling inside him. The fear of the unknown hung over him like a blade, yet it was balanced with the exhilarating potential for self-discovery. Jack knew a reckoning awaited him, it was merely a matter of when he would choose to embrace it. Thus, the stage was set not just for transformation in the workplace, but within himself. The time had come to face what lay ahead, ready or not, in pursuit of something far more profound than mere success. As he turned on his computer to forge ahead, a notification blipped at the edge of his screen, a reminder of a meeting scheduled with the newcomer. The uneasiness crackled at the back of his mind. Would this conversation solidify his awakening, or would it plunge him deeper into the shadows? Jack's anticipation for the meeting with the newcomer pulsated through him, a mixture of excitement and unease, as he wondered what this exchange could unearth. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled together, searching for grounding in the whirlpool of thoughts that threatened to overwhelm him. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown to a pivotal moment, an inflection point in his evolving understanding of leadership, vulnerability, and himself. The door creaked open, and the newcomer stepped in, a curious expression mingled with determination. His presence was buoyant, a contrast to the heaviness gathering around Jack's resolve. They exchanged greetings, and there was a flicker of understanding in the air, as if both recognized that they were on the precipice of something significant. "Thanks for taking the time to meet," Jack initiated, allowing a moment of vulnerability to seep into the conversation. "I appreciate how you've navigated the initial chaos. I know things can feel uncertain right now." The newcomer nodded, seemingly relieved that Jack had addressed the elephant in the room. "I get the sense that change is on the horizon, but it feels daunting. I'm just trying to find my footing in all this." Jack observed the authenticity behind the admission, igniting his desire to lay bare his own challenges. "I've felt that too," he admitted, a rare honesty edged with humility. "It's easy to focus on the fear of failure,
but I'm trying to embrace it. What if failure isn't the end, but rather a crucial part of our evolution?
The newcomer's face lit up, mirroring the flicker of clarity Jack sought within himself.
Exactly.
This could become an opportunity not just for us, but for the entire team.
If we can frame setbacks as lessons learned, we can rally stronger than before. Their dialogue transformed, a fluid exchange where Jack's self-reflection sparked inspiration in the newcomer, and vice versa. The fog of doubt began to clear as each insight layered upon the next, illuminating mutual aspirations. What drives you?
The newcomer asked, tilting his head curiously, stepping beyond the surface.
In the midst of this chaos, what is the foundation you stand on?
Jack hesitated, the question fell into the chasm he had been skirting for days.
I think it's the realization that my professional worth isn't solely tied to success. It's about learning, growing, and bringing others alongside me.
I want to craft a legacy that sparks genuine change. Surprised, Jack acknowledged the weight of his own words, the gravity behind a personal mandate that had shifted from one of ambition to one of collective empowerment. This opening up, this act of expressing his core values, not only required courage but also served to solidify his understanding of leadership.
What about you? What's your guiding principle? Jack pressed, an eagerness to delve deeper into the newcomer's motivations emerging. I believe in authenticity.
It's something I've learned over time. Pretending to be someone else only leads to burnout.
Embracing who I truly am allows me to connect with others more genuinely. The revelation pierced Jack's thoughts like a clarion call, resonating on a frequency he hadn't anticipated.
Authenticity, an essential pillar of leadership both he and the newcomer yearned to cultivate. Their exchange rattled loose fragments of Jack's repressed insecurities, nudging him towards a deeper embrace of self-acceptance. Suddenly, the newcomer leaned forward, eyes intense. Let us create a feedback loop within the team, a space for everyone to voice their thoughts openly.
I think it'll incubate the culture we're trying to build. We're stronger together.
The brilliance of the idea ignited a fire within Jack. This was the essence he sought, the way to forge resilience and unity. But it also compelled him to confront something deeper, a pervasive fear that had shadowed him since the beginning.
Could he fully stand behind this initiative? Was he allowing vulnerability to carve space for true connection?
As their discussion delved into strategies and frameworks, Jack felt his heart race. Every passing moment turned into a revelation, where not only did the path toward building a more authentic environment become clearer, but so did the underlying necessity for his own growth. The meeting concluded, and Jack watched as the newcomer walked out, imbued with a sense of purpose and poise. He felt an inexplicable urge to chase that momentum, to harness the collective energy they had ignited something powerful.
Yet, shadows still lurked in the background.
Pensive, Jack returned to his desk, mind racing through the implications of their discussion. Commitment echoed through him, but a troubling thought ebbed at the corners.
Could he continue to honor his new understanding, or would he retreat to the safety of his previous doubts when the stakes rose? In this moment of clarity, another question pierced through the noise: what elements from his past were still holding him back?
Jack realized the conversation had stripped away a layer of comfort. The unsettling question simmered in the air like a threat.
The next step had to be taken, but would he be bold enough to venture into the heart of that uncertainty?
Once again, the path lay ahead, dark yet inviting, a threshold to confront not just external challenges but his internal ones as well. The clock was ticking, and Jack understood, realization was both a gift and a burden, one that demanded action, one that awaited his next move. Jack stood in the heart of his father's workshop, a space now buzzing with new energy.
The walls, once echoing solitude, now reverberated with purpose.
The blueprint that had ignited his journey was no longer just a plan, it was an embodiment of growth, a mixture of his father's dreams and his own revitalized vision. He had faced the storm, a tempest of uncertainty and self-doubt, emerging enlightened and resolute. The showdown with the competing developer had sparked not just a defense of his father's legacy but a reclamation of his identity. Each step in that meeting had pushed Jack beyond the bounds of his fears, into the realm of genuine courage, a courage that had transformed doubt into a clarion call for change. The proposal he had crafted transcended mere architecture, it morphed into a manifesto of community empowerment. He witnessed how the fears of yesterday had catalyzed a determination to rise above personal insecurities. The weighty burden of solitude lifted as he embraced collaboration with newfound allies. Days turned into weeks as Jack meticulously implemented his vision, rallying support around his dual-pronged approach. Investors who had turned their backs on the town slowly began to recognize the merit in his proposal. Town meetings buzzed with excitement. Local residents became active participants, sharing their stories and hopes, painting a fabric that told of resilience and connectivity. With every successful interaction, his confidence swelled. What began as a flicker of hope had transformed into a conflagration, igniting passion not only in himself but also in those around him. The proposal evolved organically, shaped by community input, and Jack realized he was no longer just an architect of structures, he had become an architect of change, poised to enrich lives. Nearing the project's official presentation to stakeholders, Jack felt the threads of uncertainty creeping back in. The looming deadline and the pressure from potential partners and investors stoked old fears. But as he revisited the blueprint one last time, he channeled the fortitude he had discovered. Each line drawn was a testament not just to his skills, but to his evolution, a synthesis of heart, heritage, and hope. The day of the presentation arrived, and as Jack addressed the audience, including investors and community members alike, he stood tall. The nervousness that had once paralyzed him made way for an unwavering clarity. His voice resonated with belief as he linked the project's ambitions to the community's heartbeat, showcasing how this endeavor would revitalize the area while honoring his father's values. The applause that followed was not merely applause for a proposal, it was validation that extended far beyond business metrics. It reflected acknowledgement of a journey of transformation that had fostered a deeper connection with his roots and aspirations. In the aftermath, as Jack basked in the genuine interaction from community members and investors alike, he knew this was the culmination of more than just a project. This was about legacy and living truthfully. He had proven to himself that authenticity and integrity could outshine the allure of quick gains. Later, standing in the workshop amid the tools his father had once wielded, Jack felt a profound sense of completion wash over him. He was not just building physical structures, he was building trust, bridging past and future, aligning personal fulfillment with broader societal impact. Jack had achieved something profound. He conquered the isolation that once defined him, emerging as a leader who blended personal ambition with collective well-being. His laughter echoed within the walls, an emblem of joy and triumph. He felt recognized not only as an architect but as an agent of genuine transition. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm hues across the room laden with memories, Jack understood the deepest lesson of his solitude. It was never about abandoning dreams but sculpting them into something resonant with his true self. To all who have journeyed with Jack, remember, it's never too late to embrace your own transformative journey. You need to subscribe now for more exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more seekers of personal growth. Comment your reactions and theories about Jack's unwavering resolve and inspiration. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion.